I watched my mother beg me to save my sister's life. The same mother who had thrown me out of the family 5 years earlier. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. My father looked completely broken. Neither of them knew what to say because they both remembered the last time we'd seen each other. The day they chose my sister's lie over my truth. 5 years ago they called me a thief. 5 years ago they cut me off without a second chance. 5 years ago I lost my entire family because of a lie I didn't even know how to fight. And now, standing in the emergency room as my sister fought for her life, I was the only doctor who could help her. What happened next changed all of our lives forever. Growing up, I thought my family was unbreakable. My parents weren't perfect, but they were loving. My younger sister, Emma, and I had the usual sibling arguments, yet I never imagined anything could come between us. At the time, I was in my second year of medical school. The workload was brutal. Most days started before sunrise and ended long after dark. But every sacrifice felt worth it because becoming a doctor had been my dream since childhood. My parents were proud of me. Or at least I thought they were. Everything changed on a rainy Thursday evening. I received a call from my father demanding that I come home immediately. His voice was cold, angry. By the time I arrived, both my parents were waiting in the living room. Emma sat quietly beside them with tears running down her face. The moment I walked through the door, Dad stood up. "Tell us where the money is." I stared at him. "What money?" Emma began crying harder. "The college fund," she whispered. I felt my stomach drop. According to Emma, several $1,000s she'd saved for a study abroad program had disappeared. And somehow she had convinced my parents that I had taken it. The accusation was absurd. I showed them my bank accounts. I offered to help investigate. I begged them to listen. But every explanation only seemed to make them angrier. For hours I tried to defend myself. Nothing mattered. Finally my mother stood and pointed toward the door. "Don't call us again," she said. I looked at each of them one last time. Then I walked out, never imagining it would be 5 years before I saw them again. The first few months were the hardest. No matter how busy medical school became, I couldn't stop thinking about my family. Every time my phone rang, part of me hoped it would be my parents calling to say there had been a mistake. The call never came. Instead, I threw myself into my studies. If I couldn't fix my family, I could at least build the future I'd worked so hard for. The years passed faster than I expected. I graduated near the top of my class. As I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I glanced toward the audience. Hundreds of proud families filled the seats. My parents weren't among them. Neither was Emma. The empty chairs hurt more than I wanted to admit. After graduation, I started my residency. The long shifts were exhausting. Some weeks I barely slept. But every challenge reminded me why I'd chosen medicine in the first place. Helping people gave me purpose. It gave me something to focus on besides the loss I carried. During those years I met Rachel. She was kind, patient, and somehow understood the parts of me I struggled to explain. Eventually we fell in love. A few years later we got married. I sent invitations to my parents. I even included handwritten letters. None were answered. Not a phone call. Not a message. Nothing. 5 years passed that way. I became an emergency physician at one of the busiest hospitals in the city. On the surface, my life looked successful. I had a career I loved and a family of my own. But some nights I still wondered if my parents ever thought about me. Then one ordinary evening, everything changed. A single patient was about to bring my past crashing back into my life. The emergency department was unusually busy that night. Ambulances seemed to arrive one after another and every room was full. I was reviewing patient charts when a nurse rushed toward me. "We have a new admission coming in," she said. "Possible internal complications. Family says symptoms appeared suddenly." I nodded and headed toward the trauma bay. At that moment it was just another patient. Nothing more. Minutes later the ambulance doors opened. The paramedics wheeled in a woman surrounded by monitors and medical equipment. I glanced at the chart. Then I froze. Emma. For a second the entire room seemed to disappear. My sister. The same sister whose lie had destroyed my relationship with our parents. The same sister I hadn't seen in 5 years. I felt 100 emotions hit me at once. Confusion. Anger. Sadness. But there wasn't time for any of them. Right now she was my patient. And patients come first. I quickly shifted into professional mode. reviewing her condition and coordinating with the medical team. Tests were ordered. Specialists were notified. Every decision had to be made carefully. As we worked, another nurse approached. Her parents just arrived. My heart skipped. I hadn't prepared for that. A few moments later, I saw them through the glass doors of the waiting area. They looked older than I remembered. More tired. More fragile. Neither of them noticed me at first. Their entire focus was on Emma. But eventually my mother looked up. Our eyes met. She stared for several seconds. Then all the color drained from her face. My father turned to see what had happened. The moment he recognized me, he stopped walking. Neither of them could believe who was standing in front of them. And neither could I. The next several hours passed in a blur. My team worked carefully and thankfully, Emma responded well to treatment. By early morning, her condition had stabilized. For the first time that night, I finally stepped into the waiting area. My parents stood the moment they saw me. Nobody spoke at first. 5 years of silence filled the space between us. Finally, my mother broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she rushed toward me. "We thought you hated us," she whispered. I stared at her in disbelief. "Hated you?" My father lowered his eyes. "You disappeared." The words hit me like a punch. For a moment I couldn't even respond. Then I pulled out my phone. I opened years of messages. Birthday wishes. Holiday greetings. Updates about graduation. Photos from my wedding. Voicemails asking to talk. Every single one had gone unanswered. My mother's hands trembled as she scrolled through them. "We never got these," she whispered. Before I could respond, a voice came from behind us. "I deleted them." We all turned. Emma was standing in the hallway. The room went completely silent. Tears filled her eyes. "I deleted everything," she admitted. My father's face turned pale. Emma looked directly at me. "The money was never stolen. I made it up." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. For 5 years, the truth had been buried beneath a lie. "I was jealous," she continued. "Everyone was proud of you. I wanted attention. I never thought it would go this far." My mother began crying harder. My father sat down heavily. In a matter of seconds, the foundation of everything they believed had collapsed. And there was no way to undo the damage. The weeks after that night weren't easy. An apology couldn't erase 5 years of silence. Couldn't bring back the graduations, birthdays, holidays, and milestones my parents had missed. Some wounds take longer to heal. To their credit, my parents never made excuses. They admitted they had failed me. They admitted they chose belief over trust and judgment over communication. For the first time in years, they listened. Really listened. Emma also took responsibility. She apologized repeatedly, not expecting forgiveness but wanting to make things right. The guilt she carried was obvious. As for me, I didn't have all the answers. Part of me was still hurt. Part of me always would be. But I also knew that holding on to anger wouldn't change the past. So instead of rebuilding everything overnight, we started small. Phone calls became weekly conversations. Conversations became family dinners. Trust returned slowly, one honest moment at a time. Things were never exactly the same. In some ways they were better. Because now our relationship was built on truth instead of assumptions. Looking back, I learned something important. A single lie can destroy years of trust. But honesty, accountability, and patience can begin to repair even the deepest damage. Family isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing each other when the truth finally comes to light. And this time we finally did. One lie stole 5 years, but truth opened the door to healing. If this story touched you, like, subscribe, and comment. Would you have forgiven your family?